Hi, welcome to this presentation on how to get started using a password manager and two-factor authentication to protect your online accounts and more. My name is Sal Arajema. I'm an assistant professor of computer information systems at the University of Tulsa, where I teach computer networking and cybersecurity related courses. As a disclaimer, the material and guidance presented here was prepared by myself in a personal capacity. The opinions and recommendations are my own, albeit they are informed by years of teaching, research, and work in the IT field. And they do not reflect the views of the University of Tulsa. Also, while this presentation provides specific recommendations, such as using LastPass and Google Authenticator, I have no relationship with the technologies or services identified here beyond being a user and advocating for the use of these and similar technologies to improve your own personal cybersecurity defenses. Now, if you're viewing this video or reading this presentation, you already know that the world, and by the world I mean everyone that uses the internet for collaboration, entertainment, and commerce, has a password problem. A 2016 Pew Internet Research study explored security behaviors of many demographics in the US. They found that people have lots of online accounts, greater than 20 on average. And we reuse passwords a lot, with most respondents admitting that they use the same password on 9 or more accounts, and 35% admitting they use the same password on all accounts. Surprisingly, 64% represented that they knew of at least one of their mobile accounts or online accounts being compromised in the previous year. And I can almost guarantee you that number is closer to 100% for anyone that has been online for more than a couple of years. Password reuse in particular is a big problem for us all. If we use the same password on many accounts, having that password compromised exposes all our other accounts to increased risk. By compromised, I mean something like having one of your online services being hacked. And this happens all too often, even to big companies with lots of money for security like LinkedIn, Marriott, Yahoo, and there's just simply too many others to name. Using a password manager could solve most of our password management problems, but other studies suggest that less than 10% of home-end users employ a password manager. Personally, I think that number is way lower than 10% as of December 2018, but you're watching this. Hopefully you're going to help us improve the statistics and make ourselves harder targets for cyber criminals by using a password manager in the future. Now, in today's complex world where cybercrime activities are increasing, and you hear about it on the news almost every day, the best any one of us can do on a personal level to protect ourselves is to examine and improve our own cybersecurity behaviors. The good news is, with a little bit of effort up front, you can have bulletproof account management, which means you have a unique, strong password for each one of your many online accounts. And while technology can't do this for us by itself, at least not yet, there are two powerful, and you will eventually agree with me, easy to use technologies to help you. Those are password managers and two-factor authentication, which I'll call 2FA from here on out. First part of this presentation will deal with getting you started with a password manager, and the second half will introduce 2FA. Now, being upfront and honest with you, using a password manager in 2FA requires you to put some purposeful effort up front. But I will personally attest that your early efforts will pay off almost immediately after you start using these tools. At the very least, you will gain better visibility into the type and number of online accounts you have, how good you are doing with managing passwords right now, and identifying weaknesses to fix any problems you have. And all that is in addition to having potentially vastly better security for your online accounts. If you go through and implement the actions in this presentation, you will achieve a number of goals that will get you closer to having a rock-solid online account management. And that will eliminate one of the easiest ways for cybercriminals to directly impact our daily lives. First, a password manager will help you inventory and check the safety of your passwords on many of your online accounts. Actually, all of them if you do this over time. And it does this a whole lot better than using a spreadsheet or having a book of passwords to carry around with you. Second, you'll have your password manager loaded on all your devices you normally use to access your online accounts. Fortunately, the technology supporting LastPass, the password manager discussed in this presentation, allows you to synchronize your passwords between all of these devices, so you only have to enter your information once to use it on all your devices. Third, you'll create a good, strong master password for your password manager using the latest guidance as of 2018. Fourth, you will start using LastPass, and before long you will see that after you put in the effort to install it and load some of your accounts into the password manager, you will save a lot more time logging into accounts. Password managers might be the only security tool ever invented that actually saves you time over the short and long run. Fifth, we'll turn on 2FA for your password manager and hopefully all of your other online accounts that offer 2FA services. We're only going to focus on turning on 2FA for your password manager here. And last and really not least, we're going to develop our own personal disaster recovery plan for when, not if, something bad happens related to our use of a password manager and 2FA. Now, before we get going, let's put ourselves in a good position to succeed with setting up our password manager and 2FA services. I ask two things of you before going on with setting up your password manager. Number one, start a manual inventory of your most important online accounts. This should include any online banking or finance-related services like investment services, credit cards, online bill paying, etc. Next, include your email accounts, and most people have more than one, and any social media you use. Next, add in any non-sensitive accounts you use regularly that require you to log in, such as maybe Netflix. Last, pick any 5 of them to use during the LastPass hands-on activities that we're going to do coming up here shortly. We'll walk through the least effort way to populate LastPass, as well as discuss the nuclear approach of doing them all at once, and you can decide which way you want to go. But I recommend starting small, add these 5 accounts, get to learn the feel and use of LastPass, and then go from there. Now, the second thing is I want you to determine which devices you use to log on to online services. Most likely, it will be some combination of a laptop, a tablet, desktop PC, and a smartphone. You will eventually download and install LastPass on all these devices. Now, if you do this before we cover signing up for a LastPass account, I recommend that you do not create an account yet, as we will go through the process shortly. I do recommend going through the initial LastPass setup on a laptop or a desktop, however, as I do in the videos that follow, mainly because it's a little easier to work with the interface. Now, the very first thing we need to do is create a good, strong password. This is different from a bad, strong password. What's the difference? Well, you can remember a good, strong password which will not easily be guessed by someone else. A bad, strong password is equally or even more difficult for someone else to guess, but it's so hard to remember or type that you either forget it or hate using it. And when you hate using your bad, strong password, this will eventually lead you to changing it to an easy, bad password, and we don't want that. So how do we create a good, strong password? Well, I recommend using a blend of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, their 2017 password guidance, and the restrictions and requirements of LastPass, which sometimes go a little bit above that. Now, NIST has a long list of recommendations to service providers for managing users' passwords, and 2 of them are the most germane to us users. First, longer passwords are better because longer passwords, meaning more characters, are harder to brute force guess if you use a mixture of character types. And we're talking uppercase, lowercase, number, special characters, things you've already heard about. Now, while the NIST guidance says not to use a password less than 8 characters, LastPass requires to use a 12-character password or longer, and that's good. I can live with that. Now, I never worry about how long my master password is because I use a passphrase instead of a password. NIST also recommends users consider using passphrases that capture something important to you on a personal level, which will be almost impossible for someone else to guess. This means you shouldn't use a commonly used phrase that others might use, such as a popular song, poem, or Bible verse. But you can use variations of these. For example, my favorite drummer is John Bonham of Led Zeppelin. I could create a passphrase that something like this: number 1 drummer equals John Bonham. I'm not easily going to forget this because I believe it. It means something to me. It may not mean anything to anyone else. It also has all the character types without having to make any difficult choices like replacing an O with a 0 or an I with a 1 or all those other tricks you've heard about in the past. Now, how many characters are in this number 1 drummer equals John Bonham password? I don't know. It's more than 12, so I really don't care. Now, I could even put in a password hint of Bonzo, which happens to be John Bonham's nickname. And while it may not mean anything to you, it would tell me exactly what I need to remember my master password. The other thing that NIST recommends is to make sure you're not using a password or phrase that has already been compromised by someone else, like using the password of password1 with a capital P and a number 1. Then that password has been used and compromised many thousands of times over the years. If you use a unique passphrase like I just discussed, you can feel confident that you're probably quite safe. However, if you go to the website haveibeenpwned.com/passwords, there's a great mechanism to check if your new master password has been used in comparison to the over 500 million known compromised passwords in that site's database. Now go ahead and spend a few minutes coming up with a good, strong password. Feel free to pause the video while you do that. Maybe go to the aforementioned website, haveibeenpwned.com/passwords. If you want to check to see if the password you come up with has already been used or compromised elsewhere. However, if this really meets the requirements we just talked about, you're probably safe. Well, congratulations, you now have a good, strong master password. Let me make this clear. This password should only ever be used for your master password for your password manager. If you want another good, strong password, go through the same process again, but I beg you to never use your master password for anything other than your password manager. Now, and this is very important, I want you to write down your master password on a piece of paper with the date you created it. Take that password, put it in an envelope, and put that envelope somewhere safe where you can find it when needed. Use this in case of emergency or if you just forget your master password. You might even consider making 2 copies and envelopes and storing them in separate locations if you're really concerned about forgetting your master password. Now, some of you might have heard that writing down your passwords is a bad thing. That is true if you leave those passwords that others can easily get to them, like taped to your monitor or under your keyboard. But writing down and storing your password somewhere safe is a very good thing to do. Please do it right now. Now that you have your master password, it's time to create your LastPass account. Open a web browser and navigate to LastPass.com and select the button on the screen to sign up for a new account. Yes, LastPass is free for home users, although they do have a paid premium version and other types that offer different benefits for those that are interested, and I'll talk about some of these later. However, all you really need is the free version. Now at this point, I just want to mention that there are many great password managers that have similar capabilities to LastPass, such as Dashlane and 1Password. I've used both of these applications and they are fantastic options to use if you maybe don't want to use LastPass in the future. I use LastPass in these videos because LastPass is the most widely used and well-known password manager, and they provide a fully functional free version for home users, while many other password manager applications do not have a free version. Now, the fundamental capabilities of password managers are all the same, however. Signing up for a LastPass account is straightforward. Your user ID will be an email address that you will use the master password you just created. The screen capture shown here was done using the Google Chrome browser, and you'll notice how LastPass actually verifies your master password is strong as you type it. Now, you will have to confirm your master password, and then you can add an optional hint. One note on that hint: don't put some or all of your actual master password in this field. You'd be surprised how many people do it, and it's a very bad thing to do. Also, I'd like to take a moment to point out the second website link shown here. That website has many useful resources for learning about how to use LastPass, including a 16-minute video entitled LastPass End User Training 2018 that provides a lot more specific details about LastPass than I will go through in this presentation. But if you do go to that website, look at the video, you'll become a lot more familiar with the capabilities of LastPass beyond what I show here. Now, once you have a LastPass account, it's time to download LastPass on all the devices you identified earlier in which you regularly use to log into those online accounts. LastPass has apps for both Android and iPhone, which you can get through the legitimate app store for your phone, and there are also LastPass plugins for every major web browser, including Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. I'll go through the install and login process for LastPass and iPhone X in Step 8 of this presentation. I strongly recommend installing the LastPass plugin or extension for all the web browsers you use on all the devices you use. The links included on this slide are valid as of December 2018 and may change over time, but you should be able to easily find instructions online for your browser on how to add an extension. The screen capture shown here walks through the installation of the LastPass extension on Google Chrome. It's pretty easy once you know what you're doing. Now, the basic process for installing LastPass on Chrome is to navigate to the Chrome Web Store, which I do by simply searching on that term, Chrome Web Store. When you get to the Chrome Web Store, search for the LastPass extension and click through the buttons to allow LastPass to install. When LastPass is installed on Chrome, you'll see a square icon with 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of the browser. Because we haven't logged in yet, the icon is grayed out, but once you log in, the icon will turn red. At this point, I implore you to believe me that while human memory is fallible, and you might be concerned about forgetting your master password, there are some things we can do to help you remember your master password. Such as, and specifically, I'm asking you to log in and log out of LastPass 10 times via the web browser extension you just added. This should take you no longer than 5 minutes, and it will help establish that connection between your master password and your long-term memory. Please consider doing this. And now is a great time to pause this video while you complete this part of the process.